We went into a competition at Harvard called the Harvard President's Innovation Challenge. And luckily in that year, in 2023, we won that. We were the best healthcare company to be spun out of Harvard for that year. And at that time, the Consulate General just happened to be visiting Harvard. And I got the tap on the shoulder and said, hey, Albo's coming. He's coming to meet Joe Biden. Would you like to come to the White House to present this technology and tell the world about what you're doing at Harvard and the innovation? The innovation's Australian. Let's not mistake that. It's not a Harvard innovation. Yes. It's an Aussie innovation. And we should celebrate that.
Today on The Unicorns, we're joined by someone whose journey is anything but ordinary. From serving as a combat medic in the Australian Army to studying at Harvard and now leading one of Australia's most exciting medtech startups, Nicky Agahari has built a career at the intersection of science, compassion and innovation. He's the founder and CEO of Australis Scientific, the company behind the award-winning Confidence Smart Patch, a breakthrough device designed to treat bladder control conditions through non-invasive neuromodulation. The patch has already attracted international investment, won the 2025 MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific Grand Prize, and could transform how millions of people manage a condition that's often overlooked and undertreated. But before we dive into the technology and the global ambition behind Australis Scientific, I have to start with something a little unexpected. Nicky once appeared on Masterchef Australia, so I'll be asking how that chapter fits into this remarkable journey from the kitchen to the clinic. Nicky Agahari, welcome to the program.
Justin Kelly, thank you so much for having me on.
Nicky, you have got a fascinating background. Harvard Health Tech Fellow, founder and CEO of Australis Scientific, and now winner of the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific Grand Prize. But before all of that, you were on MasterChef.
I can't escape it, mate.
You have to tell us about MasterChef. How on earth did that happen and what was that experience like?
MasterChef, as you see on TV, is a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
It's so much fun, but I would never put myself under that much pressure again. Grown men cry, and it's really hard when the cameras are on you and George Columbaris is screaming at you, and it's...
What year was that?
That was in 2013. I think that was at the peak of MasterChef when all of Australia was becoming foodies.
Yeah.
Everyone wasn't just willing to eat, they wanted to be a critic as well.
And how far did you get through the program?
So I got kicked out early, but came through again on a second round. And that was super, super fun. I remember doing all these crazy things. The magic of TV and MasterChef is not what people think. There's just so much filming. Like an average day on MasterChef would be from 6 a.m. in the morning till 2 a.m. at night.
Really?
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you cooked? Well and not so well, Nicky.
2 dishes of the day, salt and pepper squid. I know you're a fan of Cantonese food.
I am. Yeah.
And then hand-pulled noodles that I got a dish of the day for as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Who won it your year? Do you remember?
A girl called Emma Dean. And I still have to thank Golden Century for giving me a little bit of training before MasterChef.
Is that right?
Yeah, the institution in Sydney still, gave me a lot of training. I felt like I could become a wok god, with the frying pan and whatnot.
And do you still like to cook away from work?
I think cooking is one of the pleasures that I do get. Is just cooking, chopping things makes me happy. I like collecting knives and I like chopping vegetables.
I'll make sure I stay away from you in the kitchen with too many knives. Did you learn anything from MasterChef? Was it teamwork, pressure, creativity, and has that carried on over to what you're doing now?
Definitely. I think it's about handling pressure and being able to think on your feet when the whole situation looks like it's falling apart, you've got to bring it all together. And doing that in a team. That year I was on MasterChef, we started off with a boys versus girls type of team methodology. But the key thing is you have to surround yourself with good people. And leading from the front is not always the right way. You've got to start listening to what your people want and then be led by them.
Well, let's talk about the turning point. You were a combat medic in the Australian Army before entering the world of medtech. So what was it that inspired your move into healthcare innovation?
Sure, I think going into the military teaches you a lot about followership. And that's a key concept that I've started to appreciate now. We always talk about leadership and leading from the front. Going in as a private teaches you how to take orders and how important that is. As a solo contributor, you may not see the bigger picture, but now starting to lead teams, I do need people to do their jobs properly. And sometimes as a leader, I can't give them the full picture because it would be too strenuous to do. So being able to lead people and convincing them and ensuring that they feel safe to take your orders and to know that when they do take your orders, it's in their best interest, it's in the best interest of the company, it's in the best interest of themselves, and it's in the best interest of the team. If you can't convince people that that's the way you lead, then there's not much hope for you to be able to get this to commercial success.
So how did you get into health tech innovation, which has led to you being the founder and CEO of Australis Scientific? Take us on that journey.
Sure. I started off my career in sales, actually, and that's not a commonplace for a future medtech CEO to do. Most people start off in a graduate program into a PhD. But I saw it a bit differently. I knew that in order to have a successful company, what do you need? It's not just the technology, it's not the science behind it. You need to be able to sell stuff.
Exactly.
And that's fundamental. If you don't have the skill sets to sell, then all the science, all the technology goes out the window. If you can't convince people that there's a problem that you can solve with whatever service or product that you're delivering, there's really no hope.
And so Australis Scientific began when?
Australis Scientific began really as this idea. I was already in medical sales. I was working for Medtronic at the time.
Okay.
I was selling an implantable technology to help patients with urinary incontinence. And what I saw was fundamentally a really expensive procedure, and a procedure that was super invasive. It required implantation to the patient's spinal cord to solve their urinary issues. And the biggest issue was that there wasn't enough clinicians that could do this procedure in Australia. 4.5 million Australians suffers from symptoms of urinary incontinence. And how do they access this implantable? Like, they have to navigate their way through medication, through physiotherapy, through Botox injection before they find their way to a urologist that's qualified to do this procedure. It just simply wasn't scalable.
Yeah, and it's not something that people generally like to talk about.
No, it's such a taboo topic. The majority of patients really don't want to even get a diagnosis for their condition. With my grandfather, it was something that really broke him. He didn't tell anyone for years until he had a fall rushing to the toilet at night. And that's how it was uncovered.
And with that experience with your grandfather, was that the moment where you thought, I could actually get into this and try to help with building the business?
I think the combination of seeing the commercial side, working with the talented clinicians, but the aha moment or the jaw-dropping moment for me was after my grandfather's fall, he was put in nursing care, and there was just rows and rows of beds and rooms, and every single patient to his left and right, they were all wearing adult diapers. And there was no escaping it. And you go through all these different nursing homes and you realize that every single patient has this condition and nothing was being done by it. the diapers manage hygiene, but they weren't really getting any therapy. They weren't getting any better.
So for our listeners who are not familiar with the Confidence Smart Patch, let's break it down. What is it? How does it work? And what is the potential?
Sure. The Confidence Smart Patch is a patch technology that actually sits on the patient's inner ankle. Doesn't matter the left or the right. You use one ankle at a time. What the patch does, it actually targets the tibial nerve. It's a nerve on the ankle itself, and that nerve is a peripheral nerve of the sacral plexus. So what that means is that the sacral plexus innervates with the bladder, and that can be stimulated through a nerve on the ankle. By stimulating a nerve on the ankle, what we're able to do is correct the neural signaling between the bladder and the brain to normalize patient symptoms. And what that means is we allow the bladder to fill to full capacity before you feel like you desperately need to urinate.
And I understand you're in the process of recruiting patients for a clinical trial. Where are you at with that process, and how is that going to roll out?
Sure. The clinical trial is actually all based in Australia. We're an Australian innovation, and we're so glad to have Australian clinicians lead our clinical trial. One is in Sydney, led by Dr. Vincent C., and the other one is in Brisbane by Dr. Eric Chung. So what that process will allow patients to do is to get involved in using our Smart Patch. Most of the therapy is being delivered at home, so majority of the clinical trial allows patients to be seated in the comfort of their own home and virtually supported by a continence nurse to have this Smart Patch delivered.
When you say that, is that through an application on your phone?
It's a combination of an application and then either on a phone call or over a Zoom call as well, if that's required.
And the trial period, Nicky, how long will that last?
So the endpoint here is it's a 12-week trial. Patients come in on the first week, they get seen by the clinician, they get diagnosed, and if the Smart Patch is deemed correct for them, they'll start therapy on the day. That's week 1. For between week 1 to week 5, it's all done at home. They'll come in at week 6, and then they'll come in at week 12, and that's the end of the trial. What the endpoint is, we should see patients decrease their symptoms by at least 50%. What that means is if you used to wear 4 or 5 adult diapers every day, we want to see that decrease down to 2. If you used to rush to the toilet 12 times a day, we want to see that decrease down to 6. And if you're waking up 4 or 5 times every night to urinate at small volumes, we want to see that go down to 1.
And the patch itself, how big is it?
It's tiny. It looks like a continuous glucose monitor. It's not bigger than the size of a Band-Aid.
And who puts it on?
So the beauty in our innovation is that we've created a system where we allow the patients to be educated and then they can self-apply.
Okay.
And then the novelty is that we've developed all the sensors into our battery pack that allows the clinician to collect all the relevant data to ensure that you've done it correctly. So there is no downside in taking this therapy from the clinic to at home. It makes it so much more scalable. It gives patients, most importantly, the discretion, something that they don't have to expose to anyone that they're doing.
So the issue of incontinence globally, how significant is this issue? How big is it? How many people are afflicted by some sort of incontinence issue?
Incontinence really affects people of all sex and all ages. You can imagine these issues around urinary symptoms may start as little as your pediatric patients where they have issues with bedwetting. And as they grow, patients continue to have symptoms of overactive bladder. But the ultimate aspect of this condition is that it is more prevalent as we age. And one of the key statistics is that by the age of 70, 4 in 5 patients will have urinary symptoms. So we're starting to become an aging population. You think of economies like Japan, by where 2050, the majority of the population will be over the age of 65. In the United States itself, there's 40 million patients suffering from urinary incontinence. In countries like China, 80 million. In Australia itself, there's 4.5 million patients.
How many adult diapers are being sold around the world? Have you got any idea?
If we look at the therapeutic market, adult
Yes.
diapers is actually the biggest player to solve urinary incontinence. Not only is it where the most money is spent, it's the most money spent because it's discreet. No one knows that, you can buy an adult diaper. You don't need a prescription for it. And not only that, it's starting to become an environmental cost. It's become a big issue.
So all things being equal, the trial begins, you get your results at some point Q1 next year.
Q1 next year, we'll have our pilot data. This will be sufficient for us to take to clinical publication, really exposed to the wider urology community who we need to convince that we've developed something that's robust, that they can onboard. And what we want to do is ensure that it doesn't require subspecialist urologists or subspecialist urogynecologists to use our technology.
Yeah.
It's like we're building the Toyota Corolla where everyone can drive it.
Yes, yep. And then from there, you've published a few papers. I'm looking ahead now. What happens then? All things being equal and things are going well.
Yeah, following that, what we aim for is registration with the US Food and Drug Administration for something called the 510K Class 2 medical device, which means that we have to meet the endpoints of its predicate technology. Once we have that clearance, we can start selling and marketing in the United States. But using the US FDA certification, we can harmonize that into Japan for the PMDA, into Australia for the Therapeutic Goods Administration, and into Europe with the CE mark.
Now, you're based in Boston.
I am.
You speak with a broad Aussie accent, but you're working and living in Boston and working at Harvard. Is that right? Tell us about that.
This is true. I was fortunate enough to do a fellowship at Harvard Medical School. So I was mid-career into my corporate career, really enjoying life, and this
Harvard came calling.
Harvard came calling, and when Harvard comes calling,
it's hard to knock back.
Well, I think it's a dream of many young kids that one day that they could study at a prestigious institute, and little young Nicky's always had that dream, so the itch had to be scratched.
And what is a Harvard Fellow?
A Harvard Fellow is a specialized program. The Health Tech Fellowship really looks at giving the fellow enough skills from the engineering side of things, from the Paulson School of Engineering, from Harvard Business School and Harvard School of Medicine, to be able to create novel technologies that can be spun out into companies.
I see. I did see a photograph, Nicky, of you in the White House with the Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. I've got to ask you about that. How did that come about?
Funny enough, I think that's just, Harvard gets you into places that,
of course,
you could only dream of. And the culmination of events was that I had graduated the Health Tech Fellowship. We went into a competition at Harvard called the Harvard President's Innovation Challenge. And luckily in that year, in 2023, we won that. We were the best healthcare company to be spun out of Harvard for that year. And at that time, the Consulate General just happened to be visiting Harvard. And I got the tap on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Albo's coming. He's coming to meet Joe Biden. Would you like to come to the White House to present this technology and tell the world about what you're doing at Harvard and the innovation?" The innovation's Australian. Let's not mistake that. It's not a Harvard innovation.
Yes.
It's an Aussie innovation. And we should celebrate that. We should celebrate Australian innovators from around the world that not only develop the science, but are committed to do the commercialization and take it to the world from Australia.
So you're in the White House, in and around that area. Where did you go, and did you get a chance to meet the president, Joe Biden?
Yeah, so we came in as part of Anthony Albanese's state visit to the United States. we specifically got to go to Blair House. This is the US President's guest house, which Albo got to stay in. Very beautiful. A lot of Secret Service everywhere.
I bet.
It was, it was quite the experience. But we got a private audience with the US Ambassador, Kevin Rudd, previous Prime Minister, and Albo himself. And then subsequently, we got to go to the state visit on the front lawn of the White House, where we got to see the whole delegation, President Biden, Vice President Harris, the whole team of secretaries underneath them. And it was quite the sight. The whole pomp and ceremony is the Yanks do that so well.
They do. What was that like?
It's a real moment. It's I grew up in Sydney, in the Shire, and you never think that one day you could achieve things like this, or you pinch yourself by being there, and you go, wow, it's really starting to come together. You put in all the hard work. And through that hard work, you start to get recognized, and it's really nice. But the most important thing is we use that recognition to build awareness to patients that incontinence is not a normal part of aging, that there are solutions for them.
You mentioned recognition. You recently took home the top prize at the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific program. What was that like?
That was a tough competition because this is validation from the industry. It's from multinational companies that supported the program, companies like Johnson & Johnson, Becton Dickinson, Teleflex. These are industry leaders. They bring across their key experts to scrutinize our technology, our patents, our frameworks of reimbursement, our go-to-market strategy. So 550 companies start at the start of the program. 60 companies get selected to be part of the accelerator, and then a top 20 company. And we got down to the top 4 as finalists.
Yes.
And the amount of preparation that you do for a program like this is all in. Not only are we trying to build the company and make sure that our clinical trials are going well and making sure our quality management systems are running well, and I'm managing that on one side, but at the same time, after every day at work, it's about committing to these type of additional projects to show that we have validity in the market. Our technology can stand up to scrutiny. It's a big diligence process that ends up in a 4-minute pitch. And that 4-minute pitch, I can't tell you how many times I had to loop that in my mind from the plane ride from Boston all the way to Singapore. It was
And what was the prize?
The prize, more so than the prize, it's really the recognition to let everyone know about our technology. Anyone that suffers from the condition, I hope, will get a glimpse of what their future technology can deliver to them. But the cash price was $175,000 USD. Not bad, talking for 4 minutes for $175K.
That's good work.
Yeah.
That's good work. Well, let's talk about the business itself, Australis Scientific. What does the team look like? We said that you're in Boston. I know you've got some operations here in Sydney. Tell us about what you've put together.
Sure. It's quite the international team. We're quite decentralized. We have engineering and technical capabilities in Boston, in Salt Lake City in Utah, where my co-founder's from. And I met my co-founder, Dr. Martin Jensen, through the Harvard Fellowship. And we have some of our clinical capabilities in Sydney and Brisbane, where we're running trials. So it's quite a decentralized team that gets together every day for a 15 to 30-minute scrum. So it comes at all hours of the morning and night.
I was thinking, how do you coordinate those time zones?
So late nights for some, early mornings for others.
What about the funding pathway and runway? Putting all of this together must cost significant capital, but I imagine there's interest everywhere from investors, potential suitors. Talk to us about that and how that is evolving.
Yeah, I can't start answering that question without acknowledging that our initial tranche of funding really came from New South Wales Health through their medical devices program. Without that, it would have been hard for our company to get off the ground. So we thank New South Wales Health, especially the director, Anne O'Neill, for believing in us. It's a hard diligence process, but that initial amount of capital allowed us to de-risk it significantly so that it was ready for the private capital to come in. And being in the US, being in the Harvard ecosystem, access to private capital is a much lower barrier. Just being able to get through the doors of the right venture capital, through the right strategic ventures, that was super important for the early stages of our life journey. We were able to follow on that initial tranche of non-dilutive capital by raising $6.8 million US for our seed round. And I don't think we could do that anywhere else in the world but the US right now. It's just that access to capital, that willingness to take risks, and understanding that what we're trying to do is innovation-driven enterprise, not a small, medium enterprise, where we're going to go significantly into the red before we're going to have this hockey stick potential to grow.
And what about other geographies? Are you looking into Asia for investment?
We're definitely looking into Asia. In particular, our lead investor is from Japan. They recognize that their consumer base is going to change into an aging population, and there is just so much demand to care for the wellness and the longevity of these patients to keep them at home. Because as soon as that population starts to invert, where the majority of the population is retirees, there's no way for the economy to support itself. So we need to keep patients doing well for longer.
So what do you think, Nicky, is the broader market opportunity here in terms of the global aging population, healthcare costs, and how you can tap into that as a business?
Sure. I think most central to our commercial plan is always the US healthcare system. When we analyze any healthcare company, 70% of revenue usually generates out of the United States, and that's staggering. It's not that their system is better, it's probably not, but it's because their system has so many financial levers, and it's important for us to meet those financial levers in order for us to operate profitably, and ensure that the payers operate profitably, the clinicians operate profitably. So it's quite a complex game getting into the US healthcare system, but that's our focus right now. In the United States, we're lucky to be able to fit into the current reimbursement framework. What that means is from the day we get approval, we already have an existing CPT code or a reimbursement code that we can tap into, and it's not going to be a significant barrier for patients and clinicians to adopt us because their insurance companies are already willing to accept those reimbursement code. That's usually one of the downfall of many companies in the healthcare sector. They think they've got a great technology and the right science, but when you try and translate it to commercial practice, without reimbursement, you don't get far.
And in terms of regulatory hurdles that you've got to overcome, can you shine a light on what they might be and how you're attempting to work with the regulators?
Sure. Our technology isn't something that is novel or being tried in humans for the first time. The therapy called percutaneous tibial nerve stimulation.
That's a mouthful.
It is. Percutaneous just means that it goes through the dermis or through the skin. Right now, they're using an acupuncture needle to go through the ankle to hit the right nerve. And patients have to come in every week, once a week, for the rest of their lives to get that therapy.
To see the urologist.
To see the urologist.
Once a week.
Once a week, 45 minutes. It's not feasible. Most patients discontinue within the first year. What we've translated that is into an at-home therapy where they can guide themselves to do it once a week, supported by our clinical staff and overseen by their prescribing urologist. The urologist still plays an important part in this.
So let's look to major milestones for the company in the next 12 to 18 to 24 months. What does that pathway and timeline look like for you, Nicky?
The next 18 months is a critical time where we're going to see a significant value inflection. First, we will have our pilot data published. Subsequently, using that pilot data, we would have learned all the little bugs that we have in our software, in our hardware. We're going to rectify that and take that to a pivotal trial. That pivotal trial will be done with a design lock device, which means that that device will no longer have any more changes. It will be the device that we submit for FDA approval or regulatory approval. Once we publish that pivotal data, we should be able to submit for FDA clearance. That's a 90-day process, barring the US government continuing its shutdown. Hopefully that rectifies itself before we get to that point. After we get approval, it's really where we have to build up our transition from a R&D company into a commercial company. And that transition is significant, where we start looking at things on a growth cycle, where quarter on quarter we have to see growth in order to maintain our valuation.
And is the idea behind the patch that once it's approved and available for sale, that a patient would wear it around the clock, all day, every day, or how does it work?
Initially, what we want to do is to get patients to wear it just like its predicate. It's going to be once a week, every week for 30 minutes to deliver electrical stimulation.
Okay.
Part of our R&D pipeline is looking at novel stimulation paradigm, where we've built a lot of sensors in our technology. And what we've been able to do is do amazing things like acute stimulation. We asked ourselves questions like, hey, what if we stimulated patients when they're actually feeling urgent? If they're desperate to urinate right now, what if we stimulated them? And some of the data that we've been able to gather is that we can give them immediate effect relief, which is amazing, where you can finally go, hey, there's a technology that can change my physiology on demand. And what we've been able to show in our product design and development testing is that by stimulating the tibial nerve, we're able to get an acute ability for the bladder to retain a greater volume of urine. And being able to do that means they may have less urgency at that point in time. We didn't stop there. We've also built in a sleep tracker on our technology. We look at patients' sleep cycle. One of the most devastating aspects of incontinence is this condition called nocturia, waking up multiple times at night, voiding small volumes. That's what led to my grandfather's fall. So when we look at patients' sleep cycle, we can start to look at their rapid eye movement of sleep. And if we start seeing that the patients are coming out of sleep, we can give them preemptive stimulation. The hypothesis is that their bladder will be able to retain a greater volume of urine, which means they're not going to have the urgency as frequent. They're going to get to full capacity before waking up, leading to potentially less falls, less comorbidities associated with waking up at night to urinate.
Final question to you, Nicky. What's your big vision for this innovation? What does success look like for you and for Australis Scientific, say, 5 years from now?
Sure, 5 years from now, I think the point where I want to get to is where I'm walking the streets and discreetly I look at someone's ankle and they're wearing a patch and they're getting on with their life. That's a key defining point that I want to get to. It's that simple moment where I can start seeing patients of all ages and sex being able to control their physiological symptom and being able to enjoy their life free of these type of symptoms that used to relegate them to be embarrassed, to stay at home, to be chained and be a hostage to the bathroom.
Well, we wish you well with the journey and the vision for the business. Nicky Agahari, founder and CEO of Australis Scientific. Thanks for coming onto the program today and all the very best in the years ahead.
Thank you, JK.